Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am going to warn you, I've had some coffee and I'm a little bit all over the place. I feel like I've been like singing and dancing and running around. I think it's the coffee rush, or I might just be in a happy mood, who knows. But I had 2 coffees at work today, and possibly that was a mistake. I mean, I got a lot done because of it. But anyway, back home and I'm recording some stuff. I'm going to be pre-recording some things as well because I'm going away for the weekend, which I'm really excited for. But this is part 2 of the market and temple build which I did, and at the moment we're doing sort of the interior of the market. And if you're not really an interior type of person, then I actually go back to do a lot of sort of exterior type things towards the end, so just skip through if you don't want to watch it and you feel like watching more building and stuff. Just skip through. I do a lot of like landscaping and I change a lot of things, and that I actually want to talk to you guys about that because I promised that I would last time. I feel like I'm shouting. Am I shouting? Oh, I need to not drink so much coffee. I think then these maybe it will sort of like the sugar rush and the caffeine rush will sort of slow down, and I'll be a little bit more calm in the rest of the ones which I'm doing. But who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But I promised you guys that I'd talk to you about the sort of problems which I had with this build. So at the beginning I was feeling like it wasn't looking as good as I wanted it to be, and part of that was actually the lighting on this lot. And the lighting with this lot, it comes from sort of the back, it's like backlit, but the reason why I think the Sims team made that so that the lighting was like that in this lot, because it casts a really heavy shadow for some reason. Like even in midday, the sun seems to stay like at the back. It doesn't seem to come overhead and light the front of the build at all. So with that, I was thinking, why is this looking so terrible? What am I doing wrong? It was actually to do with the lighting. So that could possibly be your problem. So take that into consideration when you're looking at it. But I think the reason why the Sims team did that is because this was supposed to be the lot where there was like a wedding venue. I'm sure it looks really, really lovely when the sun is setting or rising behind and you've got all the colour in the sky and the city. But I'm sure that's why they did it. So, but it's not very practical if you're trying to build other things, I guess. And this is the little art studio which I made. The other one was sort of like a precious metals and stones and stuff like that. I tried to make it look like there was a lot of jade because this is slightly more Asian inspired. Let me know what you think of that, whether I did a good job. I thought that possibly as well this might be a good place if your Sims don't have the money to be able to have all this stuff. They can do artwork here and also sell their stuff from there. So that was the idea behind it anyway. But as I was saying, jumping all over the place. As I was saying, I wasn't too happy with how this lot was going, and I felt like it didn't look too great, and I felt like I felt like I'd done a lot better things than this build as I was doing it. But actually, I thought, you know what, I'll keep going with it, and I want to give you guys some tips, because actually what happened is very minor changes actually made it all come together. Now that can be like color choices or just a different like roof type or something like that, but minor little changes. You just have to, the thing is you just have to make, I know it's kind of, you look at the build and it's kind of scary, like I've put so much effort into this, I don't want to then mess it up by doing stuff and then have to redo the thing all over again because I've made it terrible now. I know that we get that kind of feeling, but take a leap of faith. Just experiment with it. If things go terribly wrong, then yeah, you've wasted time, but you've now thought of new ideas and new ways of doing something. So I'd say just keep adding detail. So if you've got like a modern build and it's looking a bit boxy and things aren't, you know, it just looks a bit boring and it doesn't look interesting or anything like that, then add some little bits where it sticks in and sticks out, and some balconies, and maybe different things with the windows, or so, you know, like maybe do something with the lighting, like as a decoration on the side, or we've got those new sort of wooden panel things, or the ones from Dine Out, and like shelving and stuff like that. You can just put that on the outside of the build and just add lots and lots of detail and water features and stuff like that. Like, just keep adding, and eventually what will happen is hopefully it will start to pull itself together and become a more interesting thing and less bland. Although sometimes simple is good, but it's more if you're struggling to make something seem interesting, you know, that I'm giving that kind of advice. And maybe if you've got like a old build, then maybe adding sort of balconies as well, but things jutting out of the main shape, and pillars and fencing and decorations on the side and all that kind of stuff. You can keep on sort of adding more complicated roof stuff, and if you just add on lots and lots and lots of details, and it will start to put itself together. And experiment. Just try, you know, if you think, oh no, that's going to look awful, do it anyway. Just see what it looks like. Then you know for certain, and maybe it will work, you know, on a different thing. But I think part of it is just keep going. It means that if, say, you're other YouTubers or starting off YouTubers, and you're making something which is like a video like this one is, it does mean that possibly you're going to have to faff around with editing because it's not looking too great, and then you've done a massive change and half of the recording is going to be, you know, off. But it's all part of the process, and yeah, that is annoying. But for those of you who don't record and just build for fun, then it's a good thing to do. Just to, you know, don't give up. I feel like a lot of people just keep on like giving up on builds halfway and not giving them a chance. But yeah, that's my input on that anyway. I hope what I said wasn't completely and utterly obvious and not very helpful at all. Probably that was the case, but oh well. Part of this I actually, like for this, like I'll talk about it a little bit more. So like for the main thing of my temple, I didn't feel like it looked very good. So then what I did is I added lanterns and like round the edges. And yeah, that was really, really time consuming, but it made it look so much better. And I was like, well, how can I add to this more? And before I've added some of the gold sort of pieces on the top, which we got from Get Together. And I thought that normally I used the sort of shorter, spikier one that's sort of in a 3 along the side. And that didn't really work with the roof types that I'd chosen on this one. So I tried the spikier one. And yes, it meant that it was very time consuming to put all of those, and I didn't know whether it would actually look any good. But I felt like it ended up actually adding to it. And also with the lights on the side, that decorational piece. And maybe some people might think that the decoration on that build is too much, but it keeps it interesting. And so I felt like it sort of transformed the build which I'd done. And also, you know, adding all the lanterns in the pool and all of that kind of stuff. I felt like the pool was too square and that it wasn't looking good because it looked so fake. I did want it to look like it was man-made, but it was looking so fake, and so it just didn't look too great. It looked too precise, if that makes sense. So what I did, as you'll see when I get towards the end, is I actually started making sort of islands and made it sort of a more natural shape, and added greenery around it, and adding that detail again made it look so much nicer. So yeah, I think it does take time, but just adding more and more and more details, more and more and more clutter, more and more and more stuff. Obviously there is a great skill in being able to make something interesting and also simplistic and minimal, and I really applaud the people which can do that, because quite a lot of the time I overclutter things to make up for the fact that, you know, it's not as interesting as it could be. But that's my tip for you guys who do struggle with making something interesting when it's minimal. It's just to not do minimalism, I guess. Anyway, been rambling. 10 minutes into this video. I hope that it was still useful anyway. But up here, so I've got bathrooms on the side, and they're the bathrooms for this lot. I thought that was a good place to put them. But up here we've also got a kitchen so that your Sims can do like wedding cakes and stuff like that. But I also put a bedroom in. I thought that possibly there might be someone who was sort of looking after the temple and running it, and that maybe, you know, like maybe a monk or something like that, I don't know, someone which just stayed on the grounds. But it also means that if you want to, you can have your Sims practically live here because there's a bed. Or if you're visiting and there's a tired Sim, then you can just send them up to the bed and then carry on with the other Sims, you know, so they're not like sleeping on a bench somewhere or something. That was the idea behind it anyway. And downstairs we kind of make this sort of temple area. So that main bit by the stairs, that's going to be like, I guess, I put the meditation stools around in like a circle, and I try it with the benches first, but I didn't, you wouldn't be able to walk between them. So I ended up doing the meditation stools like this and putting them in sort of a semicircle. And I went in Sims 3 camera mode. Because I'm using a mouse now, guys. I'm going to keep going on about it, not using a trackpad anymore. But yeah, if you press Alt while doing that, then you can turn things freely on the map. But I actually made this into a room and hoped that I'd be able to copy it over. And I was like, no, because then I wouldn't be able to reflect it. Was I stupid Zoe? But anyway, so I cut out me doing the rest of that because it was kind of boring. But we make like, I guess, a shrine sort of thing, and I do it around the piece that we got from Romantic Garden, maybe? I don't know, but I take him out anyway, and we actually end up going into the ground and raising up a sort of lantern thing. I don't really know how else to explain it, but yeah, I tried. It's difficult making a kind of shrine thing when you don't have any religious items in the game. I thought that possibly I did a good job of it though, despite that. I thought that maybe, you know, I wanted to have the symbolism of the lotus flower, the lights, so that's sort of everywhere, and I thought that tied in with the outside and stuff like that. Those little dangling things, I know that they're supposed to be bottles, but I end up putting them around the build. I've done this before actually with some red lights, but what happens in quite a lot of temples is you get these like red card things, and people write like their family name and their wishes and stuff like that, and then people hang it up or tie it. I think I'm remembering this right. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, guys. Then they tie it to the ceiling of the temple in quite a lot of like corridors and archways and things like that, and it's supposed to give the family good luck. So I was trying to sort of mimic that with this, sort of, trying my best anyway, but it does kind of mean that it's difficult to see sometimes when you're actually in gameplay. But I hope that it's where I tried to be, what's the word, conscientious? I can't say it. Is that even the right word? I don't know. Thoughtful. I was trying to be thoughtful of where I was putting it so that it wouldn't be in the way, you know. And honestly, I filled up this space with just the path. I didn't know what I wanted to do to fill that space because there was so much space, so I ended up just putting sort of decoration, like tables with the lights on, like the little lotus flower lights with the candles in, like lining the outside, and then I filled up the space with the path. So, you know, there's another tip. If you are running out of space and it's like somewhere like this, then you can just fill it up with the fancy pathway with the flooring, maybe. I don't know. But I'm doing that thing again where I raise them up from the ground floor with the basement. And because they're lights, actually, they don't get affected by the sort of lighting. But if you've have problems with raising items up from the ground floor, then what you can, or the basement, and moving them up so that they're sort of cropped or whatever from the bottom, then what you can do is you can actually put lighting in that basement area, and it will light up the item upstairs, and so you won't get that sort of issue with it. This room was supposed to be sort of maybe a Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates type room. hopefully with the yoga mats and the meditation stools, it could also be a kind of, I have made a dojo before, dojo and temple, but it was supposed to be, it was filling up space, if I'm completely honest with you. And then this little room was actually inspired by I think it was, I was in a church in France, and I've forgotten the name for it, but it's when people, they sort of believe that people get possessed by the devil, and then it was a space where they would get the devil taken out of them again. Does that make any sense? So they had an office in the corner where they could be consulted about this kind of stuff, and it was like a tradition that in this place, I should have researched this before, I'm sorry, but they had sort of a study area that people could have meetings and things and discuss ways and, you know, who they were going to, what is it called? It's not evangelize. It's something else. I'm so terrible with words. I'm really sorry, guys. But anyway, yeah. So I thought that maybe having something like that where you could talk to maybe the person that lived here, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was like a wedding organizer. You could put it as that if you don't want this to be like a spiritual, religious thing. Who knows? But that was the kind of idea behind it anyway. I don't know if they have that in other religions, actually. They must do. But yeah, there was a lot of sort of posters. It was almost like the church had been made, or I think it might have been a cathedral, but it was made into sort of almost a museum about, baptize is the other word, isn't it? What is the word? But people which would do that, and how they were dying out, or they couldn't get people to train to be part of it because people, you know, were so scared because it's dangerous. Or, you know, supposedly. I don't know. I'm not that religious, so I'm not too sure about this stuff. But anyway, we're going on to sort of a garden area at the back here, and I wanted this to kind of be the wedding venue, I guess. And so we've got the wedding arch over at the back there, and we're going to put cherry blossom around it, and each of these sort of little pods, I guess, have different things in, and it's sort of surrounded by lots of plants and stuff like that. And we put like a music area over here so that it was sort of near where I do this as red, but I change it later because I don't think it looks good. But and then we put like a whole load of chairs that got leading up to it, and then in the other two, we have like a bar in one of them with seating, and then we have another one, I think maybe with like chess tables or something like that. Anyway, that was kind of the idea behind it. But yeah, I try and do like the fencing, and I think that maybe that might work, but no, I didn't like it in the end. And I skipped most of the landscaping because it is very, very, like, I showed you the things, I guess, which I do differently, but it was my classic landscaping with just loads and loads of flowers and stuff like that. And those of you who have watched a lot of my channel already, you might be bored by watching that over and over again. So I skipped out on some of it, but it was just my basic stuff. I wasn't doing anything different from how I normally do it. So yeah, and then here is where we put in the chairs. I actually end up, I still keep where the red is, I still keep it being a different colour, or a different floor texture than the rest of the sort of paving, but it's a closer match. It was actually the same floor tiles that I used in my first ever Asian inspired build. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I was actually getting, because I had headphones in for that one, and because it was back when I still had my headset and I didn't have a microphone. Oh, before I forget, these little trees in their own little pods, you know, like how you might get on streets, you can get them through debug mode. They don't actually come up as debug objects, but they are available as normal objects once you put in the debug thing. Like, they haven't got debug next to them, but you have to do the bb.show or hidden objects to be able to find them. But yeah. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I still had my headset and the microphone on my headset, and it was giving like feedback like a second or two after I said things. So I had to wear my headset and hear what was going on. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to use my microphone. So like the whole thing. I'm like, because I was so distracted by my own voice, like at a slight delay. It was really really bad. But yeah, I hope that video is still watchable. But you'll see here, I basically do nope, not having any of that, starting over again. And although I didn't want to do that because I'd already started it and I didn't want to redo it, but it was a whole part of the thing. I wanted to make something better, so you kind of have to give up on what you've been doing already. Not completely, obviously. I still thought that this build at that point wasn't the best that I knew it wasn't the best that I could do. But I wasn't going to give up completely. I was going to keep on working on it to make sure that it still worked, or I could still use it. And I think it was the other day, I actually ended up making a build, and I thought, actually no, I think I can do better than this. I'll do something else. And I ended up doing that, and I think it turned out well. Possibly the other one could have turned out well as well, but maybe I should have just went with that one. Maybe I can adapt it into something else at a later date. But yeah, so I'm kind of a hypocrite sometimes with this kind of thing, but a lot of the time you can make something work in the end. You'll see what I did just then is I tested it. I put like these little candles, the little lotus flower candles. I put them on the floor, and I found out that if you put them on the floor and then you draw the pool underneath it, that actually they still stay there if you've got move objects on, obviously. So, and it doesn't delete them, so that way you can put them on the water surface without actually having to use the 9 key to move them up, which I wish I'd known before. Although I think before I'd used the lamp ones, hadn't I? The lanterns, which I've got on the side of the building, and even though they had sort of the stalk on them, I guess, which would be the bit which would attach to the ceiling, I'd had to use the 9 key to raise them up so that it looked like they're floating on the surface that time. So if you're using it for that, then you will still have to use the 9 key, but hopefully it will work better this time. What I actually ended up doing with this is the flower petal rug things that we've got, I ended up putting them down and making it look like the petals have fallen into the water, because my personal thing is that the pool like water, the one with petals on that we got with Get Together or something, I don't actually really like that one, because because the petals are everywhere, it doesn't look natural anymore. It just looks like it looks too uniform. It doesn't look right. And so actually now that we've got these, you can do them, like you can size them up and rotate the smaller ones as well to give sort of a jagged edge, and it actually looks like real petals have fallen onto the water, which I think looks so much better. And I think because I originally, you'll see, I have it sort of as a greeny blue colour as sort of the filling, what the water looks like. I'm getting my words. I originally do that, so I actually didn't think it looked that great. And although that's what I've used for a lot of my Asian inspired builds before, because I can't remember, I don't know whether I would say the right wording with this, but from my experience, I remember people saying that green water was supposed to be the pure water and has a lot of symbolism behind it, and so it's sort of, whereas we look at blue water as being the cleanest and the most pure, but they look at like this bright green as being the cleanest and most pure. So originally I'd made it green because of that, but actually I felt like it looked better and fit the water which was around the outside of the park, like this part, it matched the water which was out, in that actual sea or lake or whatever it would be, better when it was blue, so I made it blue. But yeah, so I thought that made it actually look better, but you can't see the petals as well with that, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, I've done the same sort of. I guess I should have possibly included maybe like some clips. See, I think that looks so much better. I don't know why. I don't know. It just looks better with this. But yeah, I'm now making the outdoors look a little bit more sort of lived in, I guess. I make it look like, you know, I can imagine this build kind of being packed full of people and people playing on the chessboards and all the games and people performing and people, you know, walking through the streets and all that kind of stuff. I think that this build would really, really look at its best with loads and loads of people on this lot. I just think it would look so good. So I hope with the way that the system works, I'm not really sure. I hope that Central Park lots have a lot of people on them, because that would be ideal. I feel like this lot would look so much better with tons and tons of people walking around, and there's lots of things for them to do. So hopefully that means, you know, that it will work out. The stores, by the way, I don't know whether I mentioned this last time. If you go and hire someone for like to work on the store, it costs 100 simoleons. But from my experience when I was taking the screenshots, there actually weren't a lot of people on this slot, which didn't make sense to me. But maybe it's like a glitch with the game or something. But the staff which were in those little areas actually like stayed for ages. So I think it was like several days. So maybe once you sort of get them there the first time, then you don't have to do it again, possibly. I'm hoping that's the case anyway. But I end up, there's loads and loads of really cool signs which we got with this, which is awesome, because I know it's like the city, but it means that you can kind of pile them all over the walls and make it look like they're really actually shops, and it looks really authentic. So yeah, that was the idea. You'll see here that I'm putting in the lanterns on the water, and I'm just clicking in random places, and some of them are really close together, some of them are really far apart. But if you think about how the lanterns would actually be floating on the water, it would be exactly like that. They wouldn't be like, the more symmetrical it is, the worse it looks. So if you have them all cluttered together in some areas and more spread out in other areas, it looks so much better than it does if you do it separately. So that's my advice on that. If you ever end up doing this, is do make some look really close together and do make some far apart, because that's what happens. Back here, I made a kind of area which I thought might be nice as like a staff area, or people that work there or live there, that this could be like a little back garden for them. But you guys can also use that as well. I also do one around the corner, which I didn't actually show. It's a secret little one. But you guys can see that for yourself at some point if you end up downloading this lot. And yeah, I think it's like quite a romantic area. It would be nice to see some screenshots of your Sims in that area, maybe like couples or whatever. But that was around the side. I wanted it to be like a little surprise for you guys if you end up downloading this lot. Which reminds me, I need to put it up on the gallery. I keep forgetting to do that. But we're getting pretty close to the end, I think. I just put in some of the bubble blowers, I think, and I don't do much more. So yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and hopefully see you again soon.